Hey folks, and welcome to Module 1. So if you notice in your course schedule, make sure you're keeping up with the dates and how this module works and when everything is due, because you've got certain assignments due at different times during this week. A discussion board post, responses to other people's discussion board posts, a journal, which comes to me, and then at the very end of the module, you have due an essay, which I'll talk about here in just a second. So, Module 1 is all about academic writing. Academic writing is kind of its own language. This is not how we typically use English. There aren't any people who sit around talking the way that an academic essay is written. So I'm not starting out with this broad introduction and I'm not introducing a thesis statement. I'm just simply talking. But whenever I switch into my academic mode and I know that I'm writing an academic essay, then I need to practice flipping that switch so that I can move into academic ways of thinking and academic language and academic formats and everything that goes into academic writing. So, this is a process. This isn't something that comes naturally to us. In fact, writing doesn't come naturally to us. Reading and writing are not natural. We have to learn to do them as a process over time. So, academic writing is also a process. Many folks will say, well, I don't use a writing process. I just sort of sit down, open the computer, and just start writing. That's still a process, and you're still thinking ahead. And even if you don't slow your thinking down enough to recognize that, you're still doing that. So, all of us use some kind of a process. The reading that you'll do for this module is from one of my all time favorite authors. Her name's Annie Lamott. And in her piece, she talks about how wonderful and freeing it is to use a rough draft, a really awful rough draft that no one is ever going to see. And just getting the words down, just getting something on the page so that then you can work with it and mold it into that different language that is academic writing. Here's how I like to think about it. I like to think that my rough draft, even if it's awful, even if it's just, ugh, it makes my skin crawl, it's a terrible draft, at least I have something that now I can work with. And it's an awful lot like what a potter does who makes pottery. If they're sitting there in front of their wheel that's spinning around, but they don't have any clay on it, they can't really make anything. So when they begin, they have this clump of wet, gooey clay that they just sort of slap onto a wheel. It looks awful. It looks like a pile of mud. But then over time, they start to work with it and it turns into something beautiful that we pay money for. I think of the rough draft like that pile of clay. It's ugly. No one's going to see it. No one pays money for that. But if I shape it and I really work with it, I can turn it into something that I want it to be and that someone wants to read. So, through this module, we're going to be talking about some of that background information. It's kind of what to do before you start writing, what to think about to help you flip the switch on and move into that different language. Because I know nobody uses the same language in an essay that they use with their friends. We don't talk this way. So, your discussion board and your journal are going to ask you to think about things like audience, like who am I writing for, and purpose. Why am I writing? What am I trying to do with this piece of writing? Your reading is going to show you the idea of using a process, using a draft, just for yourself, and nobody else is going to see it. And then at the very end of this module, you have a diagnostic essay. All that is an essay that you write in response to a prompt that I've given you, just to show me what you know. Before we get into the essays for this semester, I want to know what you know. If you all are great at writing intro paragraphs, then I'm not going to focus on that this semester. We can talk about other things. So, this first essay is just a place to write the best college level essay that you possibly can, just to show me what you know. And as the instructions say, if you give it your best effort and you turn in an actual essay, you get all the points. I'm not grading this one in a traditional kind of sense. You get the points if you do it because this essay is for me. It's for me to see what you know and what you don't know and where we can go from here. So it's just sort of a little pre essay before we get into the semester. So don't stress over it much. Just sit down, just write it. Use a process if you want. It's totally up to you. This is for me to see what you already know. Okay, so welcome to Module 1, and I look forward to seeing the work that you do this week.